Congressman Bobby Scott, a Democratic member of the House Budget Committee, is my guest now. Good afternoon, Congressman. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be here, Megan.
All right, so let's start with that. The president trying to make a dent in that 10% unemployment rate, but many are criticizing him already, saying it's too little, too late, that he should have been focusing on this over the past year instead of on health care. Your response?
Well, we've been focusing on jobs all along. We passed a huge job package early last year, and then the House passed another one late last year. So the House has been working diligently to create jobs. The problem we've got is that as we create jobs, states are laying people off. If you look at what all the state budgets have cut back, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. So the first couple of $100 billion we spend only offsets what the states have laid off. So we're shooting at a moving target, and because of the national economic situation with states and local governments laying people off, when people said the $700 billion wasn't enough, that's what they're talking about.
Well, but what about that? Because you referenced the earlier stimulus plan, which was $787 billion, and now according to our brain room, 2/3 of that has yet to be spent. And the president had promised that if we spent that $787 billion, that unemployment would peak at 8%. And he said it would peak at 9% if we didn't pass it. Now it's at 10% and we pass it. So we're $800 billion in the hole, and we got a 10% unemployment rate, which leads many to say, why don't we just use some of that money? Why should we be forking over another $100 billion, as the president wants to do on another similar program?
As I indicated, if states hadn't laid people off in the meanwhile, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in. If localities hadn't laid people off, and others are laying people off, we're shooting at a moving target. When he made the statement, the economy, unbeknownst to anyone, was a lot worse off than it actually was. So you have to readjust the numbers based on where we actually were.
But what about the fact that we haven't spent the stimulus, that 2/3 remains unspent?
Well, most of it has been sent to, a lot of it has been sent to the states, and a lot of it is in construction projects that are getting underway as we speak. But we need to make sure we push that more aggressively than we're doing, to make sure that it hits the economy. But the problem we've got is we're kind of hamstrung, because we can't raise taxes and we can't reduce spending, and we got a deficit that needs to be dealt with. So we don't have the flexibility that we should have had we not run 8 years of overspending.
Well, what about the fact that the president and Peter Orszag, our budget director, they both say that health care remains a priority for them, and yet the president is trying to make things better for small businesses, and we hear from the small businesses that they are very concerned about health care because they're worried about the taxes that they may have to pay, and they're worried about about paying for the health care, that they don't have the money.
Well, that's why we need to pass a health care package. The health care is really the long-term major factor in our budgetary challenge. If we can cure the health care problem, if we can keep health care at the same percentage of the GDP that we've got now, we wouldn't have a long-term economic problem. With Social Security, the other budget situations are all pretty constant, close to about, right now we're about 21% of GDP. If we could keep it at that, we'd be all right. The problem is that healthcare is growing faster than inflation, is growing much more of a portion of the GDP, and Medicare and Medicaid become a challenge. That's why we have to pass a healthcare plan to get healthcare costs under control.
You know, Congressman,
small businesses will be the #1 group to benefit from health care, because they're paying the retail rate. Everybody else is paying wholesale.
Well, what do you say to the folks who are watching this who think, they're going to watch President Obama talk about this jobs plan? It's $100 billion to fund. They've already spent $800 billion on the stimulus plan. Much of that money's still in the coffers. We've got astronomical federal deficit right now. What do you say to those folks who are watching this thinking, just stop it? Just cut it out. We can't afford it. If I was in my home, I'd have to tighten my belt. You people down in Washington need to do the same thing, and no one's persuaded me that you have an answer to get us out of this. What's your response to those folks?
Well, I think you ought to have a consistent message. If we're not going to do anything and let the economy just keep going in the ditch, that'd be one thing. I think most people want us to get the economy out of the ditch. The challenge is, with the deficit where it is, our spending flexibility is limited, and obviously you don't want to raise taxes in the middle of a recession, so our options are somewhat limited. We need to have stimulus spending now and long-term budget fiscal responsibility, like we did starting in 1993, when we got the budget under control. And if we hadn't messed up the budget starting in 2001, we would have paid off the national debt 2 years ago, the debt held by the public 2 years ago.
Yeah, we've got a lot of spending over the past 8 years, that's for sure, and including the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, which the current president continues to fund. Congressman, I'll give you the quick final word. I got to go.
Well, then we would have been in a position where we'd be stimulating the economy out of surpluses, not figuring out how to start off weighing debt and try to deal with the jobs problem.
All right, Congressman Bobby Scott, thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. We appreciate it.